while since I've had to do a guest list. But that was a very large concern for my husband and I when we were going through the wedding planning stage, mainly because a guest list basically determines the cost of your entire wedding, because one person you have to think about, you know, an invitation, a thank you note, you know, those cost money, it's postage. Plus there's the food that you have to feed them. There's the stuff you have to feed them with, which means, you know, their plate, glassware, silverware, you know, all that stuff costs money. Napkins. Then there's a chair that you have to rent for them, which we did because we didn't like the chairs at our venue. It just, everything escalates up. And I think that, you know, whenever people say, you know, I can't afford all this stuff, it's like, you know, you gotta, it always says online, go to your guest list and cut it.
I had my guest list, I had my husband write out his guest list, and then we asked our parents to also provide a guest list. Once we got the list down to about 125, we based that number on, of course, wanting to have a smaller wedding. We knew that we didn't want to have a large group of people with a bunch of what I call randoms appearing. And randoms are people that you don't really know that well, or they're a friend of a friend. And I decided that I didn't want to be meeting someone for the first time at my own wedding, especially if they're a friend of someone. We really wanted to have a more intimate affair. So when it came down to cutting the list, we had our own list of people. And then I sat down with my husband and we went through and said, okay, well, when's the last time you spoke to this person? Are you just inviting them because you feel obligated to? Or do you really want them to come? And, you know, if the answer was more than 6 months, or yes, I feel obligated to, or no, I don't really care if they're there or not, as harsh as that sounds, that's just the reality of it, they got scratched off the list.
One thing that you might have a problem with that luckily, fortunately, we didn't really have too much of, because neither of our parents have worked in a big corporate environment, your parents' coworkers. I knew a friend who, her parents and her grandparents, they wanted to invite people, so they were like, okay, well, if you want to invite them, then you have to pay for them because, you know, we have a strict budget. So even though they didn't technically cut the people out, they were there, but they didn't have to pay for them. So that could work too if your parents say, hey, you know, I need to invite my entire office. That's 2 tables. You're like, okay, well, that's gonna cost you X, Y, Z.
Our motto during the wedding was sort of like, it's only one day. And that wasn't to downplay the importance of the wedding day, because it was really important, not just for us, but for our families. And that's something that you really do learn when you're planning a wedding, is that so much of that day is for your families. I said small, 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 small. That's all that I wanted, was a really small, intimate wedding with family and friends, and that was it. And we actually kind of had 2 receptions, because the first one was in Northern Virginia, where I'm from, and the second one was at my husband's parents' house in Connecticut, and that was like a week later. So they knew they were gonna have a big, massive, huge function, and I was fine with that. But the one that came from my family side, I wanted it to be eeny, weeny, weensy, teeny, and that's not possible. Firstly, because just the head count, my immediate family, meaning like, okay, so my immediate family plus like aunts, uncles, cousins, and all their kids was like 72 people. So right then and there you realize, okay, having a small wedding is basically not gonna cut it. And I will say that my parents also really were like, listen, let this one go. Like, this is a battle that you're not gonna win. You can wear whatever, you can say whatever, you can eat whatever, but like, we're gonna invite the people who have been a part of our lives. And I think that was really when I realized, like I said, that the wedding is not just about like people. I think we really do sort of in our culture, we put too much emphasis on like the bride's day, and like, it's really not the bride's day. Like, I know that's like a really controversial thing to say, but it's not. It's everyone's day. It's your sister's day and your brother's day and your soon-to-be husband's day and your mom and dad's day. I mean, and your future in-laws day. It's for everybody. And so I think what ends up happening is like, we sort of grow up in this culture where we're so selfishly thinking like, this is my wedding, it's all about me. And you really do forget like the people who loved and supported your parents and were a part of their life before you were ever even conceived, before anybody even thought about possibly bringing you into existence, you know?
One of the other things that we talked about when we first started planning the wedding was that because we wanted it to be a small affair, we weren't going to have children. We were having an open bar for 5 hours, for the full cocktail hour and the 4 hours of the reception. And we were planning on dancing the whole night. So we wanted everyone to have fun. I mean, everything was going to be in the hotel. We had the ceremony in the hotel and the reception, so no one had to drive anywhere. We didn't have to worry about that. So we decided no children. The only children that we did have at the wedding were the children that were in the wedding party.
Another important one, exes are not allowed on the guest list. I don't care how well you're friends or whatever, it's just not appropriate to have at your wedding. You know, I don't care if you're like BFFs, but I don't think exes should be allowed unless both sides are really cool with it.
So how did you decide to cut your guest list? And did you think what I said was rude? What are you going to do when you go to invite all your randoms? Let us know what you think.